Hey guys, so I was not really sure how I wanted to start this channel, start this video, record it. I've been thinking about it for a couple months now, and I told myself, I'd start it off in the new year. I'd start it off. I just kept looking for excuses to push it back, and so I'm just gonna sit down. I click record. I have no idea what I'm gonna say. I have a few notes here that are basically some outlines of things that I want to about and kind of give me a little bit of some outline. But really, this video is going to be kind of sharing, my story, sharing why I want to make this channel, why I'm so passionate about it, and just kind of sharing my journey of what I've experienced over the last 25 years and, growing up in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, and now living in Chicago, Illinois, one of the biggest cities, beautiful cities in the world, and how that kind of came about. And I've also, of course, anybody, if you've followed me on my other YouTube channel or on Instagram, I don't ever stop talking about health and wellness, and I want to share the story about why that is and where that kind of all came about. So that's kind of what I want to do. I think I'll start off with just sharing a little bit of the background. I think as of today, it's January 14th, 2025, and tomorrow is actually the 1 year anniversary since my dad passed away. And my family, especially being from the Midwest, small town, is we were very tight knit. That doesn't necessarily mean that we were all best friends or that we were all super close. And when my dad passed away, he passed away from on the farm. He did, I think, know that he wasn't feeling the best. He had a lot of other health issues. He smoked all of his life. He worked as a mechanic on this small engine shop ever since he was a little kid. His dad opened up a shop, and he just was forced to take over. I think his dad made him drop out or graduate school early at 15, and that was just kind of the life that he was given. And so that's all he ever knew, and Chamois was the only place he had ever really seen. We weren't wealthy. We were pretty poor, actually. And so traveling and experiencing the world was never a possibility. He just basically knew working. And so education and health literature and health is not talked about. Mental health, physical health is not talked about where I'm from. And so you don't really know any better. You pick up a lot of really bad habits. You don't go to the doctor where I'm from at all. I mean, I had siblings get ran over, hit in the face with bats, cuts, burns, all of that, and none of us ever went to the doctor because the nearest doctor, it was a nurse practitioner 30 minutes away, but she was only open, 9 to 5 throughout the week. And then the nearest hospital was over an hour away. The nearest fire department, an hour away. Our house caught fire one time, and we put it out before the fire department showed up. So we lived out in literally the woods. The only neighbors I had growing up, right down the road where my dad's shop is my grandma, or was my grandma's house. And that's, like I said, my dad's dad built the shop out of his backyard. And so the shop was always just at my grandma's house, and she lived right half a mile down the road. And then on the other side, about a mile away, was my aunt and uncle. So those are pretty much the only neighbors I ever got to see. I did have 11 siblings. Well, there were 11 of us. I have 10 siblings, or there's 10 of us total now. And so that kind of gave us something to do and kept us busy. And luckily, we all had extremely active imaginations. And to this day, this is probably some of my happiest memories. I was a little weirdo, and I would run into the woods and every single day and find a stick, whether it was just a wand-sized stick or a staff or some other bow or anything like that. And I would always play wizards Honestly, until I was like 14 or 15 years old. I did this by myself in the woods, and my sisters would do similar things, but they would like pretend to be horses and stuff. So honestly, living where I did and growing up how we did, because we didn't really have a TV either. There was no cell phone service. I didn't have a phone until I was 18, until I just ended up going to college. And then we didn't have very good internet either. So it wasn't like I never became addicted or used my phone or the internet a whole lot until about 15 or 16. And then I found video games a little bit and played those. And then we did eventually finally get a TV. And so we got to watch that. But because of the way we grew up, we never really like were entertained by sitting still and doing that stuff. We always had to like be out imagining and using our just creativity to have fun. And we played so many games together. We did like mattress surfing. We would all pile onto a mattress and surf down the stairs and then crash into the wall. It was so fun. I remember this game called like Raptors, where one person would be the raptor, and if you climb, run, there's like 7 of us just playing around. So it was like recess all day, every day. And if you run on top of the couch, you're safe. And so you couldn't get caught. We just did all kinds of games like that. So, we had like a very fun and imaginative childhood. So I've come to appreciate that part of my upbringing, with the caveat, of course, of, being poor and being out in the middle of nowhere. My parents just kind of helping us survive and keeping us to survive. We never really got to do or see or experience the world or get very cultured or understand the world very much. We were all very scared of people, like so scared of people. I mean, we interacted, my elementary school, where I went 1st through 7th grade, it was supposed to be 1st through 8th, but luckily we finally left after 7 years of like just very, very poor treatment, because we were the poor family. We weren't one of the families that were donating. And don't get me wrong, nobody where I'm from is rich. Like the Catholic school that I went to 1st through 7th grade, it was 40 kids, 1st through 8th grade. And one of the classes only had like 2 kids in it. And it'd be 1st and 2nd was in one room, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th. And then the teacher would go from teaching one class on the chalkboard, and then while we did our homework, she'd go over to the other class and teach that class. So it was like a house on the prairie style school is how I like to describe it. Such a unique upbringing. But that school didn't have a gym. It didn't have music. I didn't even know sports existed, because again, I didn't have a TV. So I didn't know sports existed until 8th grade, when we finally transferred to the public school. And then that's whenever I picked up basketball and like practiced forever and became good at it and thought that I liked it. I appreciated it because I got good at it, but it wasn't as much of a passion as I thought it was. It was just kind of like an outlet for me to like put my, skills and creativity and energy towards something. It was like something to put my energy towards. And I was always like a super creative kid. I loved to sing. Ever since I was a little kid, I loved to sing, but I was like taught to kind of hide it and be ashamed of it, because so my dad and I's relationship was not the best, right? Pretty early on, like ever since I was like 6 or 7, we didn't have the best relationship for a multitude of reasons. But I would love to like move my room around. I used to move it around like 2 times a week as a kid. And it would annoy him. But my mom was always extremely supportive of me. And so that was incredible to have. So she would always do as much as she could with the resources she had to help and, support my creative dreams, to be honest. So like with basketball, I got to go do AAU and like summer leagues and stuff. And so she would put as much of the resources she had for me to do that. And then as a kid, being like a creative and artsy kid, I would always I remember getting into scrapbooking, and she helped buy me and my sisters like stickers and a scrapbook and pictures. And so I got to like do that type of stuff. Or if I got into some sort of like a painting thing or art thing or just anything like that, she was always such an incredible mother and so supportive. And that definitely like meant so much to me, and she always does, and is still super supportive even from a distance. Unfortunately, too, where I'm from, if you kind of leave Chamois, you don't really exist anymore. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, but it's like small towns are very, collective mindset. And if you leave them, they don't really understand why you would want to. They feel like it's kind of like an attack on their culture, and like either you think you're too good for it or like you're choosing to not want us. But that's not at all what it is. It's not choosing not to want them. It's just choosing to want to see and experience more and seeing what else is out there. And it took me several years to understand about myself. And I, of course, felt the small town guilt of when you leave your hometown. I feel guilty, and I felt like, like where did all my friends go? Where did all of my family go? And our inability to communicate, because we didn't have phones growing up. We never also really saw communication within our family. It just wasn't our strong suit. And like I said, remember how I'm tying this back a little bit. Like I said, this video is going to go into so many directions. Like my ADHD brain is never going to stay on task. So good luck following, but I'll try to tie it all together. But remember, we were all so scared of people because we didn't interact with anybody. Like the phone, our landline would ring and we would all run away from it. Like no one even wanted to say hello to give the phone to our mom. Like we would just run the phone to mom and say, here. That's the extreme of our like social anxiety. Some of us have since gotten better because we've been forced to be out in the real world and learn how to navigate that. And some of us are still kind of extremely socially awkward and anxious. But I think with age and with time, we're all very intelligent and passionate and want to experience the world. So I think everyone's going to be okay and get to see that stuff. But I can't even remember where I was going with that. So I'll try to get back onto a direction with this talk. But so my dad passed away, and then that kind of sparked, I became very interested in health and wellness, because I studied to be a doctor of physical therapy. I have my doctorate of physical therapy, but I recognized within the profession and within the schooling that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. With everything like in the world or whatever, healthcare itself is not exactly designed to really help the people. It is helpful. I'm not in any way anti-healthcare, and there are so many benefits to physical therapy, but just healthcare in general for emergency situations and for recovery and stuff like that. But I recognize that, the ways that I was addressing people's health issues in the way that I was allowed to with the profession wasn't really addressing the issue. So like just an example is like if somebody's like diabetic and, does a lot of lifestyle choices and habits that are just not good for them and like are causing them to have all these catastrophic issues, then I need to teach them how to address them, whether that's like habit developments, whether that's changing certain behaviors and lifestyles and teaching them, the psychology and the physiology of what's going on inside their brains and their bodies, when they eat certain foods, and then, like the childhood habits of why they eat that way. That became my passion because I had to when my dad passed away. So last year my dad passed away, and then 2 or 3 months later my niece committed suicide, and then a month after that my brother committed suicide. And I share that with you because that is kind of like a huge turning point in my story, really. I knew that I needed to basically figure out what was going on, because I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling great. I just kind of felt like I was chugging along and just doing whatever it was that I was supposed to be doing, right? Like I was supposed to be in school. I was supposed to be getting an education. Like I'm not happy. I wasn't happy with it. But I was like, this is what I need to be doing, right? This is what everyone says to do. This is what I've told and committed to doing. So I have to finish it, even though I don't have a passion for it anymore, because I knew that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. but I was like, I need to just do all this stuff. And that's basically how I was living life for all of, honestly, as long as I can remember, because I hid all the stuff that I really loved. Like, I hid the creative parts of myself, you know, singing, art, the imaginative parts. Like I said, whenever I would sing as a kid, or whenever I would play Wizards as a kid, anytime like a car would come by or a person would come by, like I always hid it. Like, I always felt for some reason the need to hide myself, to be honest. And like I said, it comes from, you know, just not really being supported in that stuff. But it's I don't know, that's where it comes from is not necessarily as important as just understanding that that's what was occurring, was just me hiding what was really me and what I really wanted to do. And so, to be honest, that's kind of where I found, you know, my other YouTube channel. I got to create videos. I got to think up ideas and think of videos. And, you know, I've had a vlog channel as a kid. I had a gaming channel. I had the ASMR channel. And, you know, that's the one 3-4 years ago that took off. And that's the one that, you know, people wanted to watch. And it was helping me support myself and paying me in a way. And, you know, I got sponsors, and it's taken off. And within creating that content, you know, I always cared about it and I always loved the content itself. But my passion was really with, you know, thinking of an idea and creating and video editing. And so this was kind of, I got really fortunate, and that video and that channel taking off and being able to have that as an outlet for the last 4 years, 3-4 years of my life, while I finished up school and finished up college. So I am so incredibly grateful to have found that and to have had that for the time being, because I mean, I needed it. I genuinely just I was just basically doing everything for other people, and just because it's what you're supposed to do. And that's ever since I had this change of heart. Basically, I realized that what I want to do now is explore the world. I want to explore what's out there, and because I never had access to music or art or anything like that, I want to do that now as a 25-year-old. I want to do that now as an adult, and know that I got to see the world and travel and explore and do a lot of the things that my family never really got to do, and that I never really got to do as a kid. And because I you know, my goal is really just to figure out what it is that's going to make me, you know, feel fulfilled and help people, and creating and making people feel and happy and enjoy things or feel emotions is my favorite thing. And that's why I love meeting people. I love talking to people. I feel like I have a gift of being able to just let people feel, you know, at ease and happy and understand them. I feel like I can understand people and what they've been going through really well. And I want to use that gift to, you know, help the world, because selfishly it also is very fulfilling and it makes me feel happy. And, you know, that's when I got into, like I said last year, when I got into health and wellness, to the extreme, when my dad passed away, and I started reading. So I didn't read. We didn't read growing up. Education and knowledge was not valued in my family. What is basically manual labor. That's just kind of another thing with small towns, is if you don't work hard and kill your body in your work, then you're lazy or you're less than. And that's a very toxic way of living. And it's really hard on your body, and it's what helped or kind of played into killing my dad. And that is not something that I wanted for myself. And so that's why I had the, you know, ambition to go to college. No one does that where I'm from. No one leaves Chamois. Everybody goes back home. If you go to college, it's for 4 years, or to a community school, which there's nothing about those that are bad. But then as soon as they're done with it, they go home and they never get to experience, you know, the rest of the world. They don't understand the rest of the world because they never got to live it. But when my dad passed away, I read my first ever book. It was called Atomic Habits. And, reading your first book as a 24-year-old is kind of crazy, right? But I didn't really think I knew how to read. I didn't know how to sit down and focus on the words. I did what everyone talks about that has trouble reading. Like, you would see the words, you would say the words, but nothing was being interpreted because I was just constantly thinking about other stuff, right? I was never able to focus on what I was reading and learning. But my sister, my younger sister, when I went home for Christmas, the couple weeks before this all happened, we were like driving in a car, and I was just talking to her about how I really wanted to start getting into self-help books and journaling and just kind of taking care of my mental health. And she was extremely sweet. And like I said, my family is all just like really incredible people. And she got me this book for Christmas and a journal, and wrote a beautiful like poem and in it. Is so kind and great. But that book really did change my life. So seriously, my sister Claire, you like really changed my life for real. And basically ever since then, I started to recognize like how much you can learn from reading and how helpful it is, and how useful the information is. And then I also learned that I'm actually really good at reading. I'm really good at learning, and I never thought that I was. I always thought that like I knew I could like pick up skills, but I never thought that I could learn information. I never practiced it. I never had to study or do homework, and that's not a brag, to be honest. I just used all of my knowledge and intelligence to get around work, and whether that's finding friends that would help do my homework or anything like that. I would always figure out ways to get around doing the work, because honestly, I realized that it was because I was scared of failing. I thought that, if I was the one that put in the effort to perform these assignments, to perform this work, and it turned out bad, that I was the idiot, right? I was the one that failed. And that was kind of like the theme of so much of my life, was being just so scared to attempt because of failure. And, that stems from just like lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, self-worth. And that just comes from like all my childhood, just habits and just not feeling, being supported as a kid, and just kind of being told that everything that you're doing is wrong. And that was pretty much a constant throughout all of my childhood, whether that was from, my dad, whether that was from my teachers at that Catholic school that I finally got to leave, whether that was from, the friends and coaches and the staff in the town of my hometown. They were like supportive, but like an example is whenever I was 15, I just played basketball for the first time for 2 years at that point. And I got really good in those 2 years, and we were winning for the first time ever. Like, our school was good at a sport, and our town had something to root for. But at the same time, because we were good and because I was good, there was an immense amount of pressure put on me as a kid to perform well and to be perfect. And I couldn't slip up emotionally. I couldn't slip up mentally. The amount of pressure that was put on me in these sports, or that I put on myself maybe even, got really hard to handle. And I would be like crying to my coach basically every other week about things that were going on and about how I just did, But an example was like, we had a game whenever I was 15, and I, didn't shoot that well, and we lost the game. And one of the older guys in our hometown, he's like 60 at this point, posted on Facebook, at Aaron Brandt, if you wanted to play a solo sport, you should have stuck to golf. And as a kid, when you're 15 and one of the fans of your hometown is putting that on Facebook and social media for your entire town to see, and for people to have thought that that's what was going through my head, was that I'm selfish, a selfish player, instead of the fact that I'm playing this sport that I don't even didn't even know that I liked. Like, I just picked this thing up because my coach told me that I could be good. And then people thought that I was, developed around this, and they loved it, and they were all very, encouraged me to keep at it. But then to have my teammates and the town kind of shitting on you basically because you slipped up and you weren't able to, carry the weight of the world on your shoulders all the time. It just felt so confusing, and it was just, that's where the fear of failure came in. And so that's kind of why I didn't understand that I was good at school, didn't know that I was good at learning, because I never really got to practice it or try it. And so then I started reading, and I started realizing I was really good at retaining information. And luckily, that's what I do appreciate about my doctorate of physical therapy education, is it did teach me kind of like the basics of health. I'm not saying it taught me a lot, because a lot of the information that I've read and learned has been on my own. It basically, it taught me the words, and like I had some clinical experience working with patients that I could apply this information to. And so that's been the really helpful part of it. But, outside of that, everything that I've learned has been within this last year, basically since January when I read my first book. And last year I read over 40 books last year, and I've been putting together this health and wellness program that I want to eventually share with everybody, because it shouldn't have taken me having a doctorate level education and reading 50 books for me to understand how to take care of myself, how to change the psychological and the childhood habits and the lifestyle habits that have been negatively affecting, my health, my well-being, my mental health, because that lifestyle, diet, nutrition, sleep, exercise, all of that affects your mental health, your physical health, everything. And I was like, I want to put this all together and teach people and show people how they can do it and how they can work on and improve their own health on their own. They shouldn't need me. They shouldn't need a person. They shouldn't need a doctor. They shouldn't need somebody to take care of themselves. They should know how to do it. And unfortunately, our society doesn't promote that. Our society is not something that talks to you about health and wellness. It's not something that talks to you about prevention. It's just something that kind of masks and covers up the symptoms of what's going on in your life as a result of all of these things. And they push these things that are bad for you. They push these foods. They push these even healthy foods that they say are quote unquote healthy that are not healthy, that are like attacking your body and causing it to attack itself. And, when I recognize that, I'm like, I feel, and I've always loved teaching. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a PE teacher and a coach, before I realized they didn't make the most money, and I probably couldn't explore the world and see the world with that type of a profession. But I learned that I want to teach people this information, and I want to show people why it's worth it and help motivate them and help them understand that it's very possible to do and it's worth doing. And so that's kind of like part of my journey is, I've spent the last year and a half fixing myself and learning myself and understanding what all this stuff impacts me and how my childhood impacted me and the decisions and behaviors that I did. And so I've done a lot of reflection and a lot of learning, and there's so much more to do. But that's why I've come to really appreciate everything that I've been through. And so part of this channel is going to be talking and sharing a lot of health and mental health, physical health, all that, just advice and lifestyle that you guys get to learn and hopefully you guys can use. And I want to answer any questions that you guys have too. But then the other part of this channel is going to be me, I want to travel. I want to see the world. Like I said, I want to do all the things that, my dad never got to do and that my family never got to do. And hopefully one day they do get to do it. Hopefully one day they, have the confidence or the understanding to be able to leave Chimoy and travel and explore the world, because it's so beautiful. And so I want to travel. I want to bring you guys with me. I want to explore Chicago. I want to explore California. I want to explore New York more. I want to travel, see the world. I want to travel to different countries and do different things, and and all of that, learn together and share my perspective. I'm a small town kid that made it out. I made it out. You can too. I feel not only just a responsibility, but kind of like an opportunity to encourage people to know that they can do it. It's scary. It might be scary because it's unknown, and the unknown is so freaking scary because you don't know if you're going to fail. You don't know if you're going to be safe, because that's also what you hear about, is how scary the rest of the world is. but it's not scary. It's designed for you to figure it out. The world is made for you to figure it out. And, you know, I want to be that support system if you don't have a support system. I want to be the person that encourages you to not even just chase your dreams, but just go live your dreams. Go explore things so you understand that what you have chosen to do with your life is exactly what you want to do. Who cares if you're making a ton of money? Who cares if you leave what you thought was a dream for this time, or that what you thought your family wanted you to do? Because guess what? You can always go back to it. Even if you're 40 years old, even if you're 50, 60, you can always go back to it. You have so much time. There's so much time in this world. And at the same time, not a lot. So get out there and let's go explore the world and learn how to be healthy and happy together and grow together. And so that's really what I want to do with this channel. And that's what I am very inspired by. And so I hope that you guys enjoy and are looking forward to, learning with me and from me. And I'm really excited for everything that's coming in 2025 and on. It's going to be a really incredible year.